This week's episode is brought to you in part by Adobe Systems, the people who bring you Photoshop, Illustrator, and an entire line of software for web design and video. CDW, for hardware, software, gadgets, and more, CDW has the right technology right now. DLO, makers of the Home Dock Deluxe. Watch your favorite podcast on your TV with the Home Dock Deluxe from DLO. Azo, makers of high-end monitors for creative and moving image professionals. And iStock Photo, the world's preeminent collection of member-generated royalty-free images and digital art.
And she walked up and said, "No, it's a 6-foot wildebeest." Okay. Anyway.
All right. Thanks for joining us. So, you come up with a plan for this week's show. Have anything?
All signs point to no.
Corey.
Yep, Corey. What?
What do you got?
Well, I was kind of hoping to find out what you guys were doing. I was going to kind of build what I was going to do off of that. So, I mean, what do you got?
Sounds like a cop-out to me. You know, if Scott was here, he would...
Wait a minute. Scott's not here.
Scott's not here. So that means...
All right.
Hey, everybody, welcome to my backyard. Scott, as you saw in our little pre-production meeting, we realized Scott was not here, and he always said to me, you know, when you're on your own, you guys do what you want. So guess what? We're doing what we want. So welcome to a poolside episode of our little show, brought to you in part by the National Association of Photoshop Professionals, the fine people who don't bring you pineapples, but bring you magazines that we would normally show, but you know what it looks like by now. I'm Dave Cross, and with me this time around is Corey Barker.
Hello, everyone.
Corey's here. And as you saw in our pre-production meeting, we were sitting there trying to decide what to do. Matt suddenly looked at his watch and realized he had to get to the airport because he was on his way to Canada.
Yes.
Banff, Alberta for a seminar there, and I think he's going to LA after that.
Right
so
on, yep.
He's a traveling man. So instead, we brought in RC to help us out today.
Hey, everybody.
RC's grilling some dogs, feeding the dogs. So we're going to do pretty much a regular show, except for the small matter that we're sitting around a pool with a pool table and that kind of stuff. So RC, you've got the dogs ready to roll there, so how about you head over and do a little tutorial at the tutorial pool table is what I was trying to say. Tutorial pool table.
Pool tutorial.
That thing over there.
Yeah. All right, so what I wanted to do is I wanted to talk a little bit about Photoshop and Flash again, how to be able to use both applications. And they've done some really, really cool stuff with integrating the two applications. Now we can actually use Flash and Photoshop in ways that we weren't able to use it before. So take a look at something cool over here.
So one of the cool new features that they wind up having now in Photoshop is its ability to be able to play well with Flash. Now, take a look at something here. I wound up actually creating a little bit of a graphic for a Grand Theft Auto featuring Dave Cross. So notice that inside of this we wind up having a series of layers, right? We have a text layer, just a regular layer that sits down here. We also have the Dave City, which is actually using not only text, but it's also using like a bevel and emboss. It's using a stroke, and it does have some warping in it as well. We have a graphic, and we also have another text layer that has some specific effects placed on it. We have a picture with a mask. Now, the cool part about this is, if I were to save this as a regular PSD file, we now have the option to be able to open this up in Flash. So take a look. In Flash, I'm going to click on File, New, and I'm just going to go ahead and set up a basic document. I'll click OK. Now, to get all of the Photoshop components over into Flash, all we have to do is click on File and Import, and we're going to import to the stage. I'll go ahead and I'll select the sample PSD file that I'm using, and I'll click on Import. Now notice that every single layer that we wound up setting up is represented here. and you have the option to be able to change how you want that layer to behave inside of Flash. So for example, I have the site URL. Let's say that I want to be able to keep that as editable text. I can just click on this box here, and I can even set up this layer or this object that we're going to put in as a movie clip by itself. So in here, I'll go ahead and I'll just call this site URL. I can even set a registration point here in the center. Under Dave City, I'll go ahead and, since that has styles and it has a warp, I'm going to keep that as a bitmapped image. And I'll go ahead and I'll create a movie clip for this, and I'll call this Dave City. And again, I'll also set the registration point. Now this also is going to wind up getting a bitmapped image, and I'll call this DC logo. And set the registration point. So you can go through all of these and set up how you want Flash to be able to work with all of these areas. So now the last one is going to be city. Set my center registration point, and I don't want this one, so I'm going to go ahead and uncheck scene background. Now, from here, notice here at the bottom, you can convert the layers that you were using in Photoshop to Flash layers, and you can also set the stage to the same size as the Photoshop canvas. And that's what I want to do. So I'll go ahead and I'll click on that. I'll click on OK. So there's my setup. Now all I have to do is just come click on the canvas and click on the background swatch and set this to black. So now we have all of this information, and notice that all of these can be individual movie clips that we can use inside of Flash. With a little bit of creativity, we can actually go in and play a little bit with all of these types of animations. For example, I just moved some stuff around, and it's not important what we wind up doing just yet, but if you were to take a look, I'm going to hit Control Enter or Command Return, and I was able to set up a basic animation with just moving a couple of objects around. So moving around back and forth now from Photoshop to Flash is a lot easier.
That was cool. I particularly like the way you had like the street sounds and the beeping horns and stuff. Is very appropriate for your Grand Theft Auto thing. So that was very cool. Well, that was excellent, wasn't it? Yes. So I think right about now, after all that hard work from RC, it's time to go to a brief message from one of our sponsors. So we'll be right back after this brief message.
Hey, Bob. Yeah, we're expanding. We're gonna need a lot more stuff. Let's start with servers. Okay, HP ProLiant, IBM, Sun. Oh, good. And networking. Cisco, 3Com. Wow, is there anything you guys don't have?
With over 1,000 top technology brands to choose from, in stock and ready to ship, we're there. CDW.
What do you think about getting some takeout after this?
Hey, very cool. Good stuff. Now, you're doing some similar kind of stuff outside of the normal Photoshop stuff at Photoshop World, right?
Yeah, actually, I'm doing 2 classes at Photoshop World in Vegas. I'm going to be working on how to be able to set up a Dreamweaver site. And it's just for those who wind up having Dreamweaver CS3, don't know the first thing about it. We want to be able to spend some time on how to be able to get your ideas together and put them all together and actually set up a site.
Awesome.
And then I'm actually going to wind up doing a second class for individuals who actually buy a canned template, which is like one of those unspoken things. A lot of the times people wind up buying a template because they just want to get up and running relatively quickly, right, and don't necessarily know what to do with it. Cool. So we figure we'll start like a part support group, part development, show people how to get up and running with template design.
Awesome. Now, if you watched last week's show, you'll know that we added a brand new feature with called the Enhanced Podcast, where you'll see a place where you can click on an icon to jump to a web link or link. This graphic right here is an example. We're talking Photoshop World. If you click on it, it'll take you right to the Photoshop World website. So anytime you see that symbol and throughout the show, you can jump directly to the website that we're talking about, which is a nice, cool little addition we've added. And of course, you have to be in either QuickTime or the iTunes viewing to be able to take advantage of that. Another example, another link I'm going to give you right now, we have a lot of people asking questions about what they need to do, and they've got, say they own Photoshop and Fireworks and one other product, and they're kind of unsure how they can upgrade, what they can upgrade, what they can't. CDW has set up a place, they have specialists that really are good at figuring out what you have and therefore what you can upgrade to. So if you go to this link right here,
you'll get some information about how to do that. So check it out. It's pretty cool. Enhanced podcast. We love them. Now, Corey, I think, is over at the pool table tutorial site. Is he over there?
Yeah. Corey, hey Corey, you gonna give us a tutorial?
I think Corey's... Wave the camera, say you're ready.
Hey Corey. Yeah.
That must mean he's ready. I hope he's ready. So we're going to head over to Corey and see what he has for us from the Pool Table Tutorial Center. Take it away, Corey Barker.
All right, everyone, welcome to the pool party episode and my tutorial. Well, this week is response to an email I got recently on how to create a chain link fence effect right from scratch in Photoshop. Well, I wrote back to them and said, you know what? I can do that. So let's do it right now. All right, so we're going to begin in Illustrator. I'm going to go into my toolbar and select the pen tool. And I'm just going to click once in here. I'm going to hold down my Shift key and go to the little ways down toward the bottom here and click again. So we get a nice straight vertical line here. And I want it to be relatively thick, so we're going to set it to about 8 points. Just like that. So once that is set, let's go under the Effect menu. We're going to go down here to Distort and Transform. Go down to Zigzag. Inside here, the first thing I'm going to do is click on the preview so we can actually see how this is affecting this area. And I'm going to check on the relative and smooth functions here. And I'm actually going to go ahead and leave these settings at 10 and 4 because it looks pretty good right there. So let's go ahead and hit OK. And we're going to go under the Object menu and go to Expand Appearance. This will commit that transformation. So with that object selected, I'm going to copy it. Go under the Edit menu, go to Copy. Let's minimize that. Let's jump into Photoshop. I've got a document set up here. Let's go under the Edit menu, go to Paste. And I want to paste this as pixels, so we're going to make sure that that is checked, so we'll hit OK. So there is our object right there. Well, I want to change the color that it is set right now. So let's go in here and lock the transparency. And we're going to press Shift-Delete. Now we'll bring up my fill dialog. I want to make sure that we're using 50% gray and hit OK. And it's gone and filled it in there because we have white filled in there. If I reveal the transparency, you see. So let's get the magic wand, select those areas and delete them. So we just have that stroke. Now let's go ahead and fill that gray in. I'm going to double click on this object and I'm going to activate a bevel and emboss. And down here in the gloss contour, we're going to click on this little arrow and we get this little selection menu here. I'm going to go ahead and click this second one on the bottom row right here. And you can see right away that's giving me kind of a really cool metallic effect there. But I can adjust that by adjusting the lighting here. If I disable the global light, you can get a very different effect just by moving this little handle here. And we'll go with right about like that. And we'll hit OK. We'll zoom in here a bit so we can see. So that pretty much completes the metal effect. So let's create the fence itself. So I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this layer by dragging it down to the new layer icon. I'll go to the Edit menu and go to Transform Flip Horizontal. Now let's take that object and nudge it over here so it is just overlapping the other shape there. Now we need to intertwine these shapes, so I'm going to load the selection of the previous shape, which is this layer right here, by command clicking directly on it, but you still see we're still active on this top layer. So we're going to use that selection and create a layer mask on this layer here. So click on the layer mask icon, and it is masking out the wrong area. When it does that, all you simply need to do is in the layer mask, press Command or Control I to invert the mask, and there you will have your effect. So still working in the layer mask, I'm going to go over and get my brush tool and making sure we're painting with white. I'm just going to brush in the bottom area of each of these links here. So now it has the appearance of being intertwined. Now, right in here, you see we're getting that bevel effect, which I don't want. This is actually going to be wrapping around there, and it wouldn't be beveling right there. So let's double-click on that layer to bring up the layer styles. And in the blending options, let's check the Layer Mask Hides Effects option right here. And there you can see it fixes that. You can toggle that on and off, and it makes sure that you're wrapping around. So let's hit OK. So let's repeat this effect once again. Let's duplicate that original layer again, and we'll drag it over here. And let's bring that layer all the way to the top and do that same masking effect we just did a second ago. So let's go ahead and load this object here. If I command click on that, it'll activate it in the layers palette, and then we'll load that as a selection. And as we did before, we'll create a layer mask on this object. And to go ahead and invert the mask when you apply it, you can hold down the Option key when you press the new layer mask icon, and it will do just that. It'll do an invert of that mask. And as we did before, let's paint with a white brush. Let's go and do the top ones this time. And also going back into those layer styles and checking on that layer mask hides effects. Just like that. Now, we need to do one more of these links. So let's select that original layer and duplicate it, and drag it over. Nope, we actually need the other one. This one right here, and we'll just drag it over. Let's go ahead and drag it up to the top there, and there it's gone ahead and it's intertwined because it already had that mask on there. Now, I'm going to turn on my background layer so you can actually see this a little bit better. So there is what is the beginning of our chain link pattern. So we need to go ahead and define it as a pattern inside Photoshop here so we can apply it to any image. So I'm going to bring up my rulers by pressing Command or Control R. And I'm going to take these guides and I'm going to drag that one right there. I'm going to drag one from the top here and put it right at this point where these intertwine right there. Take another horizontal guide and drag it to this point right here. So it's got that intertwining in there because when this is a pattern, that point will meet up with this point right here. I'm going to drag another vertical guide right over here and off to that side there. So now, I don't want the white to be part of the white background to be part of my pattern, so I'm going to go ahead and turn that layer off again. We're going to get the rectangular marquee tool. I'm just going to draw a shape, and it should snap to those guides that I just drew right in there, encompassing that area. All I need to do now is go under the Edit menu, go to Define Pattern, and here you'll see it says, you can give it a name, let's call it Fence, and we'll hit OK. And all you got to do to apply it is open up an image. Here I have the Fierce Lion. Let's go ahead and create a new layer. And I'm just going to press Shift-Delete to bring up the fill dialog. And we're going to use the pattern. And we're going to use that very chain link pattern that I just created, which is right there. When I hit OK, boom, there it is, gone ahead and created a really cool chain link fence. And there you see we get very interesting chain link fence effect, all using Illustrator and Photoshop. Isn't that great?
So here's what I have to share with you this week. I have a photo here that when I looked at it, I realized a couple things were wrong with it. The focus was a little soft and it was a little noisy, so I thought I want to do something a little different with it, and I thought, why not turn it into an old photo so it looked all kind of old and crinkly and, you know, old. So that's exactly what we're going to do. Let's take a look, shall we? So first up, I want to add that kind of old-fashioned look by adding a hue saturation adjustment layer. I'm going to click the Colorize button and just change the hue slightly and not quite so saturated. But I also want to make it look like just a slightly off color. So I'm going to lower the opacity a bit, which just brings a little bit of the color back in again. Now we're going to add a new layer. On that new layer, I'm going to want to fill it with 50% gray. Now I'm going to use a keyboard shortcut to do this. Shift-Delete or Shift-Backspace on the PC will open up the Fill dialog box. Now mine was already set to 50% gray, but if it wasn't, you would just choose that from the menu, click OK. Then we're going to add a filter. The first one will be Add Noise. You want to make sure it's monochromatic and a fairly low number, so somewhere in probably the 8 to 10 kind of range, and click OK. So that's going to create a noisy layer. Then we're going to change the blend mode to overlay. And what that will do is see how it just adds a bit of that sort of grainy, noisy kind of feel. So that's step one. Now we're going to add another new layer, and this time I'm going to fill it with white. Now look at my toolbox, and I can see that black is my background color, or excuse me, my foreground color. White is my background. So I'm going to press Command-Delete or Control-Backspace to fill with white. This time I'm going to go Filter, Texture, and then Grain. Now again, it could be set on something different. You want it to be set on vertical, and then this is where the experimentation, you want it to be fairly subtle, so just play around with the intensity and contrast until you find just a few lines, something like this. Click OK. Now this one we need to change to multiply, and that will get rid of the white, and that will give us this sort of, now we've got some grain and some lines happening. All right, so, and the final thing we can do to add a nice effect to this is one more effect. We're going to add a new layer. I'm going to fill it with something. Doesn't really matter what it is, but I need to use the filter called Render Clouds, and until I have something on there, nothing will happen. I'm going to actually use Difference Clouds, and that just creates this pattern here. If you want to, you can press Command and Control F to try some different patterns, but you want something fairly obvious. Then we're going to do two more filters of this same layer. First of all, Pixelate, Crystallize. Here's the filter you don't use very often. And again, this is where the experimental part you probably want to use for a fairly low resolution photo like this, somewhere in the 25 to 30 kind of range, something like that perhaps. Click OK. And then the last filter on this layer is stylize, find edges. And here I am working away and Corey's floating away. That's not distracting at all, let me tell you. Okay, so, and then we're going to also change this layer to multiply, which creates this kind of crackled effect. Now, this is all looking pretty good, but the one problem I have, the concern I have with this is that it looks a little too obvious. I want it to be a lot more randomized. So one simple way to do that is to add a layer mask, and then on that layer mask, run our clouds filter, render clouds, and that will create this random pattern. See how that's affected? Let me turn this off and then back on. See how it just kind of randomizes a bit? And we could also pull the same layer mask with the Option or Alt key held down to copy it here. And that's going to give a slightly different effect there. So let me show you the original and then the after. Now, as I was experimenting with this, one of the things that I found is that you can play with this in some different ways. So let me show you another photo that I use the same kind of effect. All I did in this case was that effect with the whole crystallize, find edges thing, and all it did, and then I used a layer mask, so now we get this look like her face is being cracked and we've got the areas we don't want. So it's a very simple way to create a very easy little effect. And the nice part about this, let me switch back to my other document, is if you have another photo the same size as this, you could select all of these layers, drag them over the other photo, and the same effect would be applied to that photo too. So very cool, simple thing to do to make your photo look nice and old. So there you have it. Now back to somebody. Probably Corey, I'm guessing, because he's flaking off in the pool.
Photoshop Storm Team Action News with news anchor Stephanie Cross.
Hey guys, Stephanie with the news for you again today. As you can see, I'm lounging in the pool just like the Photoshop guys, having a great time today. First off in the news, Adobe has released Media Gallery, or AMG, for Adobe Bridge. AMG makes it possible to create HTML and Flash-based galleries from any file formats supported by Bridge. Keep in mind that AMG requires the Bridge 2.1 update. If you need any information, check it out at this link right here. Also, Exchange International has released CS3 compatible versions of SkinTune 2020 Color MD and Test Strip Proofer plugins for Adobe Photoshop. Check it out at this link right here. And last but not least, several new tutorials have been added to Photoshop Design Center on adobe.com. Look for techniques from Russell Brown, Morty Golding, Katrine Eisman, and many, many others. I'm Stephanie Cross, and I'll see you back next week. Can somebody please get me some food? RC! Ketchup and mustard?
Hey, well, if you've watched our show for a while, you know that I like to wear Canada shirts. Now, I've had a few people ask, is that all you have in your closet? And I'm here to tell you, of course not. If you take a look here, you'll see I do have quite a collection of Canada shirts, but you see, there is at least one shirt that's not a Canadian shirt. So that just clarifies the fact that no, not every shirt is Canadian shirt, okay? So just want to let you know that. Hey, guess what? It's contest time. Right, Cassie? Okay, cool.
That's right.
We had a contest last week and we asked this question: where do you find something? I think it was system layout, maybe? I think that's what it was. And the answer was in the character palette pop-up menu, a place I'm sure you look almost every day. And this lucky person right here won some collection of fabulous prizes. Congratulations to this person. So, this week, we're going to have another contest.
That's right.
And normally we have a collection of prizes to share with you. As you can see, we got pineapples. So there will be prizes, and they will be darn fine prizes too.
There will be a lot of prizes.
We just can't tell you. It's going to be like a magazine thingy and a NAP membership kind of thing. And
we don't.
Perhaps a book or a DVD.
Yeah, that kind of stuff.
Like
you know. So yeah, so that's our plan, is to come up with something. So the question is, how do you make your document look like this? I don't mean the text layer, I mean well, I'll give it to you, the transparency, okay? How do you make it look like that? So go to our website, click on the enter contest thing, you know how it works, enter once, good luck to you, hope you win, and that's our contest. Oh, speaking of contests, that just reminded me. The B&H great giveaway spending spree contest thing, we had so many entries, like 3,000. We're still trying to pick a winner. So if you've come back looking for a winner, Matt, Scott, and I are still taking our time looking. There's so many good entries. So we promise you we will have a winner soon. It's just taking longer than we thought because there's so many good things we have to look at. All right, well, it's time for our things to do. As you know, we like to give you some things to check out between this week's show and next week's show. So here are some suggestions for you. What do you got?
Check out www.layersmagazine.com. We're actually starting a podcast, blog, video tutorials. We're wrapping them all up. We're putting them together. One tutorial a week, one news event a week. Check it out. This link right here.
Cool. Well, I'm going to suggest that you go take a look at PhotoshopSeminars.com because you've heard us talk about our various seminars. We haven't really done a Photoshop on the road lately because, frankly, there hasn't been much to tell you about. But now we have some upcoming seminars in Canada, the UK, and some other US cities. So check it out at PhotoshopSeminars.com. Corey, what you got?
Well, I would like to suggest that you...
Whoa. Hold on a sec. You got to speak into the pineapple.
Oh, sorry. Go and check out the Adobe Design Center. It's got a lot of the newest tutorials for the newest CS3 applications and hot rods on the road today. So go check it out at this link right here. We'll see you later.
Awesome. All right, now normally we like to end our show with something we call One for the Road, but given the way this whole show has been so relaxed and we thought we'd do something a little different this week, and that is to say, instead of giving you a Photoshop tip, our tip is slow down, relax, enjoy yourself. Just every so often, stop and smell the pineapples and just enjoy life and lounge in your pool and say hi to your kids, won't you? And come back next week and enjoy our show. So for me, Dave Cross, that's Corey, RC. We'll see you back next week, won't we? I'm sure we will.
Aloha.
Bye, everyone. Bye. Bye, Corey.
And then he said a space monkey landed on the roof. Oh, a naked buffalo ran by. Oh, and he said no, but your shoes are missing. There was a cat. There was 2 dogs. No, I told it wrong. There was... No. There were 3 men and 2 baby chickens.